A very good morning to all the students. In this session we are going to discuss one of the important asymmetric key cryptography system, which is called as RSA crypto system. In the last session we have gone through the concept of asymmetric key cryptography, where we have seen that the asymmetric key cryptography makes use of two keys, right? What are those two keys called as? One is the public key and the second one is the private key. So as the name itself indicates, that public means this particular key is available to each and every member in the network, and this private key is not shareable. This public key is shareable, whereas the private key is not shareable, right? And as I told that in a asymmetric key crypto system, every user has to generate two different keys, public and private. And if we have two parties, and if they want to communicate with each other using the asymmetric key cryptography, let us say this is Alice and this is Bob. Bob has to generate his public key as well as the private key. Similarly, Alice also has to generate the public key as well as the private key. But the concept you have to understand here is, if A wants to send a message to B and that message has to be encrypted, then A has to use the public key. As I told that these two keys are public keys, right? This is public key of A and this is public key of B. Since they are public, they are kept in a ring called public key ring, so everybody can access it. So if A wants to send a message to B and if it wants to be encrypted, since the message is intended to be, the A has to take the public key from the public key ring, and then he or she has to encrypt it by making use of this public key. And once you convert the plain text into ciphertext C using the public key and the encryption algorithm, the ciphertext will be transferred from A to B, and at the receiving end B has to perform the decryption process. And for the decryption process, the ciphertext is taken and B makes use of a decryption algorithm which takes the input as the cipher key and the private key of Bob. Since B is having his own private key, the decryption process is always done with the private key of Bob. Thereby he is able to generate the plain text. So this is the main theme behind the asymmetric key crypto system. Remember that the encryption is always done with the public key and the decryption is always done with the private key of the same pair. Here public of B and private of B. Therefore, since the message is intended for the party B, encryption has to be performed using the public key of B and decryption has to be done by the private key of B. So this is the whole idea of this asymmetric crypto system. In this we have lot of examples, as we have discussed that we have knapsack crypto system, we have RSA crypto system, we have Elgamal. Like that we have number of ECC is also there, elliptic curve crypto. Like that we have number of asymmetric crypto systems. But the first and foremost thing what we are going to discuss under this session, in this session, is the RSA crypto system. So the RSA is an acronym. We know what an acronym is. Acronym is a word that is formed by combining the first letters of different words. Here the crypto system has been named after their inventors. There are three inventors for this crypto system. The first author or the first inventor is the Rivest, and second one is the Shamir, and the third one is Edelman. So they took the first letters of this Rivest, Shamir and Edelman, and they have named the crypto system as the RSA crypto system, and it was invented in the year 1978. It's a old algorithm, but still it is a strongest crypto system. Is it clear up to this introduction point?
Yes, sir.
Right. So in this RSA crypto system, we are going to discuss these topics: the introduction part and the procedure that is involved in this RSA crypto system, and some of the very good examples that we can use it for this RSA crypto system. So these 3 points we are going to discuss under this session, and after this, in the next session, we are going to discuss the attacks on RSA, and then we'll see what is this OAEP is, optimal asymmetric encryption padding, and we will conclude this RSA topic with the application. But in this session, we are going to discuss these 3 topics. The first one is the introduction, and then we'll go for the procedure, very important one, and we'll see some of the very good examples. Like we'll start with very simple example, and then we'll see what actually happens if you take the large prime numbers, right? So this is what we have planned in today's session. So coming to our discussion on this RSA introduction, as we know that this RSA is an algorithm that is categorized under asymmetric key crypto system. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
So it will make use of 2 keys. One is the public key and another one is the private key. We know very well about these things. So public means it is open to everybody in the network. Private means it is private to that particular person only, which is not shareable in nature. So what do we use? When do we use this public key? Is it for encryption or decryption? Public key is used for
Encryption, sir.
encryption, right? So that is the reason why we call here the public key, or we denote the public key as E for encryption. And what for we use this private key? It is for decryption, right? So we will make use of this private key, or we will denote this private key with a letter called D. D stands for decryption. So you keep these particular points in mind so that we can proceed further, right? So as we discussed that RSA uses 2 keys. Here we are calling them as the exponents. I'll tell you why it is called as exponents, right? So and then we have 2 keys, that is E stands for the encryption and D stands for the decryption, where E is public, I told you already, and D is private. And then again we will take 2 notations, P, which represents the plain text, and C, capital C, which represents the ciphertext. These are the various notations we are going to use when we are going to discuss this RSA algorithm, right? So here we are taking 2 more parties. The first party is the Alice, she is the sender, and the second party is the Bob, he is the receiver, right? So when Alice wants to send a message to Bob, that means she has to generate a cipher key. What is the notation we have given for the ciphertext? It is C. So the ciphertext is generated by making use of the exponentiation, modular exponentiation, right? So we will take the plain text, right? This is congruent. Here also this is congruent, not equal to. In modular arithmetic, as we have discussed in the earlier sessions also, we will be using the concept of congruence, which is represented with 3 parallel lines. It is almost same as that of is equal to symbol, which is denoted by 2 parallel lines. So in order to generate the ciphertext C, we need to use the plain text, and for encryption we need to use the public key of Bob, that is E, and then we will use the modular arithmetic with a number called modulus of n. Right, here I have denoted it with capital letters, not an issue. You can denote it as small letters also, lowercase letters. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So Alice needs to create the ciphertext from the plain text and the encryption key, that is nothing but the public key, and the modulus arithmetic or modulus operator. And once the ciphertext has been reached this Bob, he has to generate the plain text. So he need to apply the decryption process. So after applying the decryption process, he needs to generate the plain text P from the ciphertext C by making use of the key, which is the private key of Bob, which is denoted as D, right? And we will use the same modulus of n here. Very simple encryption and decryption, right? There is no involvement of a lot of substitutions and permutations like the symmetric key crypto systems, which we have discussed in the DES and AES algorithm. Very simple. They are going to use the exponentiation modular arithmetic. This is called as exponentiation modular arithmetic, right? So while looking at this, what is the time complexity of converting a plain text to the ciphertext in the RSA means, or the plain text, the ciphertext to the plain text in RSA is, since they are using the exponentiation modular, the complexity is exponentiation in nature only. Now tell me, is it suggestible to have an algorithm which is having the exponentiation time complexity? Can we have any algorithm which is exponentiation? No, right? So for this purpose, we are going to use a technique called fast exponentiation, which we will discuss in the next coming classes. So for this modular exponentiation, the time complexity will be exponentiation in nature, but it can be reduced to the polynomial time complexity by making use of a technique called fast exponentiation. Is it clear? So if somebody asks you what is the time complexity of this RSA, you can say that it is exponentiation, but since the encryption and decryption makes use of a technique called as fast exponentiation technique, the exponentiation time complexity has been reduced to the polynomial time complexity. This is the answer you should give. Clear?
Yes, sir.
And what about this n? As I told that this n is a modulus n. It's a very, very large prime number which is created during the process of key generation. So in this RSA algorithm, you need to generate or you need to discuss about 3 steps. Right. The first one is the key generation, where the author or the party has to generate the public key as well as the private key, and then the party has to perform the encryption process and the decryption process. So these are the 3 topics which we are going to discuss in today's session. The first one is the key generation, and the second one is the encryption, and the third one is the decryption. Right. So while looking at this n, it is a very, very large number which is created during the key generation process. And encryption and decryption uses modular exponentiation. That's what I told, right? And hence it is feasible in polynomial time. using the fast exponentiation algorithm. This is what I have discussed here. Is it clear up to the introduction part?
Yes, sir.
Now coming to the complexity of operations. What are the operations we have here? One is the encryption at the sender side and another one is the decryption at the receiver side. Right. So sender is Alice, the receiver is Bob, and the plain text is denoted as P, ciphertext is denoted as C, and the encryption is a method which involves the conversion of plain text to the ciphertext by making use of modular exponentiation. So P power E, what is this E here?
Encryption.
Public, sir.
Is a public key of Alice or Bob? Public key is the correct answer.
Alice, sir.
It's not the public key of Alice, it is the public key of Bob.
Bob.
Right, I told you clearly that this is very important point. I told you clearly that in the asymmetric key crypto system you have to use the public key of the receiver to whom you are sending. For example, I want to send 100 rupees to Rajesh. So I should use, if I want to encrypt that 100 rupees, so what I will do is I will take the public key of Rajesh and then encrypt it and then I will send it to Rajesh. And after receiving, Rajesh will make use of the private key, his own private key, and he will decrypt it. So remember this particular point, that the encryption process always involves the public key of the receiver, not the sender. Right? Now tell me, what is this E? It is a public key. It is the public key of Alice or Bob?
Bob, sir.
Bob, right? And the technique is modulus arithmetic. This is a modular exponentiation. But as I told in the previous discussion, that we are going to end up in the polynomial complexity. In general, it is exponentiation in nature, but it can be reduced to the polynomial time complexity by using which algorithm?
Fast exponentiation, sir.
Fast exponentiation algorithm. Right. So once the plain text has been converted to the ciphertext, it is transmitted to Bob through an insecure channel. Why we are saying it as insecure channel means, here the attacker, here Eve is considered to be the attacker. She always tries to find out what Alice is sending to Bob and what Bob is sending to Alice. She is an unauthorized user. Right? We'll discuss what Eve is going to do. But once the ciphertext has reached the Bob, that is C has been reached to Bob, then Bob has to implement the decryption algorithm. Thereby he generates the plain text P by making use of the modular exponentiation only. Again, this is ciphertext power D. Now tell me, what is this D?
Private key, sir.
Private key. Super. What is whose private key is it? Is it Bob's or Alice? Whose private key is this?
Bob, sir.
Bob's. Right. So Bob will make use of his own key and he will generate the plain text. As I told that this is also a modular exponentiation technique. Modular exponentiation, which end up in the exponentiation complexity, but by making use of the fast exponentiation algorithm, it can be reduced to the polynomial complexity. Right. But when Eve tries to access this C here, she got it and she wants to generate the plain text P by making use of this technique, right? So in order to apply this modular of n, first of all, Eve has to calculate the eth square root of c, which is not at all possible. There are no efficient algorithms to find out this particular value, right? So it is, we can say that it is highly impossible for the unauthorized third party users to capture the ciphertext and generate the plain text. So that is the reason why we say that the complexity for Eve will be exponential in nature. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Sir.
So Alice can encrypt in polynomial time, where E is the public key of Bob. Bob can also decrypt in polynomial time. We are discussing about the complexity of operations only, right? Because he knows what D is. And but Eve cannot decrypt because she would have to calculate the eth root of C using the modular arithmetic, which is highly impossible. No good mathematics algorithm is going to support this finding of eth root of C, right? So here Alice uses a one-way function which is called as the modular exponentiation, right? What do you mean by one-way function? We have discussed in the last session. One way. So as the name itself indicates that this is a one-way function, therefore we are going to calculate y is equal to f of x. That means if you know x, it is very easy to compute y, but the reverse is not possible. That means if you know x, y cannot be calculated that much easier. It's not easy to calculate x if you know y. That means f inverse is not possible. It is not that easy. So a one-way function is a function which satisfies two properties. The first one is f should be easily computed. The second one is f inverse is not easily computed, right? So one of the example of this one-way function is the modular exponentiation. This is what the modular exponentiation is. And with a trapdoor known only to Bob. Now tell me, what do you mean by trapdoor one-way function? This also we have seen, right? TOWA, trapdoor one-way function. So trapdoor one-way function is a one-way function. That means it has to satisfy these two conditions, that is it should be easy to compute and f inverse is very complex to compute. In addition to it, it should also satisfy that f inverse can be calculated easily when we know the trapdoor, right? Here the trapdoor is nothing but D in this case, because Bob is having D which is called as a trapdoor. He can easily calculate the plain text from the ciphertext. So the function, the modular exponentiation, is considered to be a one-way function, and it can also be considered as a trapdoor one-way function also. So once you know the private key of Bob, you can easily calculate the plain text from the ciphertext, right? Since Eve does not know the trapdoor, he or she cannot decrypt the message. This is what you should understand. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now this is important. The procedure for the RSA. Here we are going to discuss three different algorithms, right? I told you clearly that the first algorithm which we are going to discuss is the key generation algorithm, and the second algorithm is the encryption, very simple algorithm. We'll use the modular exponentiation. And the third algorithm is the decryption algorithm. This is also very simple, where we are going to use the modular exponentiation. Right. See here, the RSA procedure. The RSA uses the modular exponentiation for encryption and decryption. This is what I told you, right? And other than this encryption and decryption, it also has to discuss the key generation. Three important points: encryption, decryption, and key generation. But first we will discuss key generation and then encryption and decryption. Why we have to discuss the key generation first? Why? Because in order to perform the encryption and decryption, the user has to have his own public key and the private key. So that is generated. That means the public key and the private key is generated by the key generation algorithm. So we will discuss this first and then this one and then this one. This is the order we are going to go. Right. And one important, very important concept you should understand here is that RSA uses two algebraic structures. The algebraic structures, the mathematics of asymmetric key crypto system was discussed in the earlier sessions, right? There we have discussed the algebraic structures like the ring and the group. What do you mean by group? A group is denoted by G, right, which has a set of elements and two operations, right? You can make use of any operation. That's a different case. But in order to call this particular binary operations on the set as group, it should satisfy four properties. Do you remember those properties? Closure. What is the second property?
Associativity.
Super. Associative.
Communicative.
Commutative. It's not communicative, it's commutative.
Commutative.
And third one is identity.
Identity.
Inverse.
Inverse, sir.
Right. If a group, if this particular set satisfies these four properties, we call it as a group. There is other property, what you have told is correct. There is other property which is called as commutative property. If this property is also satisfied by this group of elements and operations, we call it as an commutative group, or it is otherwise called as abelian group. Do you remember this term, abelian group?
Yes, sir.
So a group, if it satisfies the commutative property also, we call it as an abelian group, right? So that is what about this group is. And what about this ring? Ring is denoted by a letter R, if you remember it, right? G for group and R for ring. It is also a set and two operations. Where the first operation, this one, it satisfies, it should be a commutative group. That means it should satisfy all the five properties. But the second operation satisfies the first property and the second property. What is the first property? It is the closure property. And the second property is the associative property. So the first operation has to satisfy all the five properties, that is closure, associative, identity, inverse, and commutative. Whereas the second operation satisfies the closure, associative. In addition to this, it also has to satisfy distributive property, right? So this is a just recap of what a group is and what a ring is, right? So in RSA algorithm, in the key generation, we are going to use the group, and in the encryption and decryption, we are going to use the ring, right? So encryption and decryption makes use of the algebraic structure ring, and the key generation makes use of the algebraic structure called group. So we can call it as encryption decryption ring, and we can call it as key generation group. Very important concept, right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So what is a ring here? A ring is a group of elements. Here we are going to take the Zn. What do you mean by Zn? Any idea? You know it.
Set of integers, sir.
Set of integers, residual integers, right? N means, for example, Z10 means you have to take the elements from 0, 1, 2 and so on up to 9. Set of residual integers. And we need to take two operations here. one is plus and the second one is the multiplication, right? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Next, and as I told that the key generation is going to use the group, right? Which group you are going to use means it is denoted by Z, but we are going to use Zn star. What do you mean by Zn star? This is G phi of n star, right? Z phi of n means what do you mean by Zn star? I know that this is a set of residues. Zn is Zn star means set of residues of multiplicative inverses only. So you will take from 0 to, for example, Z10 star means I know Z10 consists of 0 to 9, but Z10 star means you have to take the elements which are having the multiplicative inverses only. So that's what this one is, right? So Z star of what is this phi of n? Have you ever seen this symbol phi of n in the previous discussions? Do you remember the concept of Euler's totient function? At least you might have got an idea that we have studied this Euler's totient function. Got it or not?
Yes, sir.
Right. So what for we use this Euler's totient function means we are going to use this Euler's totient function to find the number of elements, right? Number of elements that are less than n and that are co-primes to n. So in order to find the set of elements which are co-primes to n and less than n, we are going to use the Euler's totient function. So we are going to use this Euler's totient function in the key calculation. So we are going to take the group Z phi of n star and we are going to take two operations. One is this one and this is called as the multiplication operation. And this is the division operation, right? Just have an idea that we are going to use two algebraic structures. One is the ring and group. Ring is used to encryption and decryption process and group is going to be used for the key generation process. Clear up to here?
Yes, sir.
And this ring is public and this group is private, right? So let us look at the process here. As in the previous case itself, we are going to take Alice as the sender and Bob as the receiver. Since the receiver is Bob, you can observe here that the key generation process, this is the key generation process, right? The key generation process has been placed at the receiver end. It is placed at the Bob. Why? Because since the message is intended for the Bob, we need to use the public key of Bob for the encryption and the private key of Bob for the decryption. So Bob has to generate his two keys. By making use of this key generation algorithm, he has generated the E and D. What is E and D? What is E and D?
Encryption and decryption.
Right. So encryption and decryption, where E is called the public key and D is called the private key, right? So the Bob is going to generate this E and D, and the public key E, here you can see this E comma N is sent to public. That means they are going to generate a ring here and is going to store it in this public key ring. And when Alice wants to send the plain text P, she needs to convert that plain text into C ciphertext by making use of the public key of Bob, P power E mod n. So once encryption is done, the ciphertext is transmitted through the NCQ channel, and at the receiving end, Bob has to convert the ciphertext into the plain text by making use of his private key D, which is already generated by making use of the key generation algorithm. Very simple thing. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So here you have to remember that two important points we have discussed, that is, we are going to use the ring structure, algebraic structure, for the encryption and decryption process, and the group structure, algebraic structure, for the key generation process. Right. As I told that we are going to use the ring for the encryption and decryption. So encryption and decryptions are done using the commutative ring, right, Zn plus star, with two arithmetic operations, that is addition and multiplication. So in RSA the ring is public, this is what I told, because the modulus n is public in nature. So anyone can send a message to Bob using the ring to do the encryption. So for example, Bob is here. He has generated his public key and private key. This public key is open. So Alice, if she wants to send a message to Bob, she can make use of this public key and she will send it. Again, you take some C, party C. If she wants to send a message to Bob, she will take the public key of Bob and then send the message after encryption. Like that, any party that is present in the network, if they want to send a message to Bob, they can send it by encrypting the plain text by making use of the public key of Bob, which is kept as public, right? This is E. Let us denote it as E. Right, anybody in the network, they can send a message to Bob just by taking the public key of Bob from the public key ring and then encrypting and then sending it. And once the Bob has received the message, he can decrypt it by making use of the D, which is the private key of Bob. Clear?
Yes, sir. Sir.
Right. So we are going to discuss a very important algorithm, that is RSA key generation algorithm. Very simple algorithm, right? It looks as if it is very tough, right? But it is a very simple algorithm. So in the key generation algorithm, the first and foremost step you have to do is you have to select two large prime numbers, that is P and Q, such that P is not equal to Q. Why we are saying this large prime numbers means, when you take small prime numbers, they are vulnerable to the attacks. So in order to protect us, or in order to protect our data from the attackers, you need to take large prime numbers. It should be around 512 bits, right, which is equal to some 300 digits, I think, right? So you take this P as 512 and you take this Q as 512 bits. So this particular 512 bits of P and Q will protect your data from the unauthorized attacks. If you take smallest prime numbers, it is also possible, nothing wrong in it, right? But when you make use of the smallest prime numbers, it may be attacked by the attackers. So in order to have good security for your message, you please select the large prime numbers. Choice is yours, right? And after selecting the large prime numbers P and Q, the second step you have to do is you have to calculate the modulus n. So n is nothing but a simple process where you have to multiply the P and Q values, and that becomes n. So n is equal to P into Q, P multiplied with Q. Is it clear about these two steps?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The third step, what you have to do is you have to calculate the Euler's torsion function of n. As I told that the Euler-Stoichern function is used to calculate the number of digits or the numbers that are less than n and relatively prime to n, right? So we have a formula that phi of p is equal to p minus 1, if you remember this one, right, where p should be prime. So if you take a prime number, the Euler-Stoichern function is given by p minus 1, right? So what is phi of n? Phi of n is nothing but phi of p multiplied with q. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
Both p and q are prime numbers, so it can be written as phi of p into phi of q. If p is prime, the formula is p minus 1. Similarly, q is also prime, therefore it becomes q minus 1, right? So this is how you calculate the Euler-Stoichern function. After calculating the Euler-Stoichern function, this is important, fourth step. You need to select a number e, random number, any number you can take, but you have to follow the conditions. You take any random number in between this 1 and phi of n. If you go for an example, it will be very clear, but you just remember what is the process, right? So you need to select a random number e from the set 1 less than e less than phi of n, such that, very important condition, such that the e should be co-prime to phi of n. That means, what do you mean by co-prime? So how can we say that e and phi of n are co-primes? You have to calculate the GCD of phi of n and e. If the GCD of phi of n and e is equal to 1, then we say that these are co-primes to each other. The point here you have to remember is, you select any random number between this 1 and phi of n, but it should be a co-prime to phi of n. That means the GCD should be 1 between this e and phi of n. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So once you are done with e, you have to go for step 5. That means you have to create d. So what is e here? What does e stand for?
Random number, sir.
It is random number only, but what is this e? E for encryption, right? So what is that key you are using for e?
Public key, sir.
It is public key, right? So you have selected the public key. So the fourth step is nothing but selection of public key. That's it. And by making use of this public key, you are going to generate the private key, right? So D, that is D stands for decryption, which is nothing but the private key. So D is calculated by the inverse E modulo of phi of n. This is the formula. So this is equal to D is equal to congruent E inverse of mod of phi of n. So how can I convert this into equality symbol? Can I write it as dE mod phi of n is equal to 1? Right. So from this, let us write here. D is congruent to E inverse of mod phi of n. I can write this as D into E is congruent to 1 mod phi of n. Right, multiplying both the sides with E. So it is D star E and it is E inverse into E, which is equal to 1. Simple technique. Now you multiply mod phi of n with both sides. So D star E star mod phi of n, it becomes 1. That's it. Right. In order to find the D, you have to make use of the E and modular of phi of n. What is this D here? Is it not the private key? D is private key. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
So you have created the public key and the private key. The next step is this public key e comma n should be announced publicly, and the private key d comma n, we can take the simple d or you can take the d comma n also, nothing wrong in it, and the private key d comma n to be kept secret. So you return the public key and private key. Is it clear about the key generation algorithm? The first step is you have to take two large prime numbers p and q. Second step is to calculate the value of modulus n, which is given by p multiplied with q. And the third step is you have to find the Euler's Totient function phi of n. After finding the Euler's Totient function, you have to select E from the range 1 to phi of n such that GCD of phi of n comma E is equal to 1. That means they are co-primes. E and phi of n are co-primes. And once you have this public key, you can generate the private key by using the formula D is congruent to E inverse modulo phi of n. So once you have created this D and E, you make the E comma n as the public key and you make it as public, and the private key D comma n should be kept secret. This is the basic idea behind this key generation algorithm. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So Bob uses the above algorithm to create his public and private keys. After key generation, Bob announces the tuple E comma n as his public key. This everything we have covered, right? I'm just reading out these things. And Bob keeps the integer d as his private key, right? And one more important point is, after generating the public key E comma n and d private key D comma n, he can simply discard this P and Q and phi of n. He can simply remove it. Nobody is bothered about this, right? When do we require this P, Q and phi of n? Means whenever Bob wants to change his private key without changing the modulus. We are not going to change the modulus. Why? Because n is created with P into Q, P multiplied with Q. If he wants to change his private key, therefore, how do you create a private key D? D is given as E inverse mod phi of n. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And E is selected from this range. So if he wants to change his private key or public key, what he has to do is he simply changes this value. For example, previously he has taken 3. He wants to change his private key and public key. So he just needs this n value P and Q. And instead of 3, he may select 5. So when he selects 5, the D also changes. So this P, Q and phi of n are required only when the receiver wants to change his private key without changing the modulus. Clear?
Yes, sir.
See here.
Good.
To be secured, the recommended size of each prime P or Q is 512 bits. It's almost 154 decimal digits. See here how many digits you are taking. 154 decimal digits if you take, then your RSA algorithm will be highly secure in nature, right? And this makes the size of n modulus 1024 bits as 309 digits. So a simple point you have to remember is P and Q should be very large. You make it as 512 bits, or you take the P as 154 decimal digit number and Q as 154 decimal digit number, and you calculate this n, which is nothing but P multiplied with Q. You will get a number, very large number, and if you modulus it with 1024 bits, then you will get 309 digits. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is the RSA encryption algorithm, very simple algorithm. So what do we require for the encryption algorithm? You require a plain text. Am I right or not? And you require a public key. Whose public key is this one?
Public key of the receiver, sir.
Public key of the receiver, right? and E comma N, this entire thing is taken as the public key. Therefore, this is the public key of the receiver. Super, right? And one more important point that you should remember in encryption is P is the plain text, right? And this is in Zn. You take any integer number from Zn, but it should be P should always be less than N. That means if you get the N as some 33, so this encryption algorithm only works with the plain text which are less than 33 only. You cannot take 35. That means the plain text length should not be 35. This will not work. So for encryption, one important point you should keep it in mind is the plain text length should always be less than N. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So the formula is for creating the ciphertext, as I told that the formula is C is congruent to P power E mod N, simple technique. But this is a modular exponentiation. But when you apply this fast exponentiation to this modular exponentiation, you can get the ciphertext within polynomial time. So to achieve the polynomial time complexity, we are making use of this fast exponentiation, nothing more than that. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So you
sir.
return this C. Now decryption algorithm. So for decryption algorithm, what do we require? We require a ciphertext. We require the private key, which is denoted by D comma N. Similarly, the plain text is obtained by the formula P is congruent to C power D mod N. And this is also exponentiation in nature, and in order to reduce the time complexity to the polynomial time complexity, we are making use of the fast exponentiation algorithm, and then you return this P. Clear? Are you clear about this key generation, encryption and decryption algorithms?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So encryption, anyone can send a message to Bob using his public key. Encryption in RSA can be done using the above algorithm with polynomial time complexity. This has been achieved because of fast exponentiation. Otherwise it would be exponential in nature, right? And the size of plain text must be less than N, very important point. If larger than N, what you should do? You should break it into blocks, nothing more than that, right? Listen, one important question I would like to ask. By looking at this particular point, tell me whether RSA is stream cipher or block cipher. Is RSA a stream cipher or block cipher? The answer is in this particular point only.
Block cipher, sir.
Block cipher, right? So you should always divide the given text into blocks of size which are less than N. So this is a very good example of block cipher, right? And coming to the decryption, Bob uses the above algorithm to decrypt the ciphertext message he received. Decryption in RSA can be done using the above algorithm with polynomial time complexity. This is because of the fast exponentiation only. And the size of ciphertext must be less than N. Obviously it will be less than N. Why? Because you are sending the block of size less than N. You will receive the ciphertext block of size less than N. Obviously you will get the plain text which is blocks of less than N. Clear? Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we'll just see one example, very simple example, right? So Bob chooses 7 on Q. Here Alice is there, she is the sender and Bob is the receiver. So who has to generate the public and private keys? This is sender and this is receiver. So who has to generate the public and private keys? Who is the receiver here?
Bob, sir.
Bob. So since Bob is the receiver, he has to generate his public and private keys, right? So let us see the process of generation, right? Bob has to choose two prime numbers P and Q, right? So the first step is choose P is equal to 7 and Q is equal to 11. What is the second step? You need to calculate N. N is given by formula
P into Q, sir.
P multiplied with Q. So what is this value here? 7 multiplied with 11, that is 77. So after calculating N, what is that you have to do? You have to calculate totient function of N. Am I right or not? What is totient function of N? It is totient function of 77, that is equal to totient function of 7 into totient function of 11. Both are primes only. Therefore, I will get it as 6 into 10, which is 60. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So phi of n has been calculated here. Now he chooses two exponents E and D. So first he has to choose E, right? He chooses 13. As I told that, what should be fourth one is he has to choose E between this range 1 less than E less than phi of n. So he has to select one number between 1 and 60. But the GCD of phi of n comma E should be 1. That means there should be co-prime. He has taken 13, right? GCD of 13 comma 60. Is it 1 or not?
Yes, sir.
Right. You
Yes,
can
sir.
take any other number also, which is a co-prime of 60. So once you calculate this E is equal to 13, the fifth step is calculation of D, which is given by E inverse mod phi of n. That is equal to D star E star mod phi of n is equal to 1. That is equal to D into, what is E here? It is 13 into mod 60 is equal to 1. So I should find the multiplicative inverse of 13. What is the multiplicative inverse of 13? So he has given this answer, right? We will go with it. D is equal to 37. 37 13s. What is the value of 37 13s?
481, sir.
481 mod 16 mod 60.
1, sir.
68s are 480, right? It is 1. Therefore, the multiplicative inverse of 13 is 37. Therefore, E becomes 13 and D becomes 37. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
what Alice has to do is she has a plain text called 5. Remember that asymmetric crypto system always uses numbers. There is no textual data that is to be transferred between the sender and the receiver. So assume that the plain text is 5. Right? Now Alice has to convert this 5 into ciphertext. So she needs to calculate this C, which is given by, this is P, right? Plain text is P. P power E mod n. So what is P? 5. What is E? 13. 5 power 13 mod 77. What is the value of 5 power 13 mod 77? Anybody who is having calculator, they can do it. 5 power 13 mod 77. It is 26. So the plain text 5 has been converted to 26. Now at the receiving end, Bob has to perform the decryption. That means he receives 26 and he needs to convert it into plain text by making use of the private key, which is 37, this one. So the formula is P is generated with C power D mod n. That is equal to, I know C is 26, D is 37, mod 77. So if you calculate this 26 power 37 mod 77, I will get the plain text P as 5. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is all about the RSA algorithm. We have seen the clear introduction and the algorithms, that is key generation algorithm, encryption and decryption algorithms of the RSA. This is a very important algorithm which comes under the category of asymmetric key crypto system. And we have seen one example, very simple example we have seen, and in the next session we are going to discuss some more examples on this RSA, right? So this is end of today's session. Thank you one and all for joining the session.